We're starting off with an old friend of mine, Rick Snyder, Governor Rick Snyder, and he's the constant entrepreneur, has a new company called SensCy. I actually heard about it at the SBM annual meeting in June, but we've been under radio silence until they decided to announce, and we're finally there. So let's start off with, I just call him Rick. Everybody, I think that's what he prefers. Known Rick since my free press days back in the 90s. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about SensCy, Rick. What's it up to? What are you looking to do with that company?
Yeah, it's great to be with you, Mike. SensCy is really about helping small and medium-sized organizations, small businesses deal with the threat of cybersecurity. It's a scary thing out there in the world today. If you look at attacks on small businesses in the last year, they went up over 400%. And almost half the cyber attacks that are affecting business are on small business. And if you stop and look at it, most small businesses don't have the resources to be prepared, to understand what they need to do to protect themselves. And so I felt, and my co-founders felt, there was a pressing need to really create a company that focuses on this segment, how we can be a trusted guide for people in need.
Yeah. So you say one of the biggest priorities that you see for these small businesses is to have something you call an incident response plan. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what the elements of a good incident response plan are and what that would help you do?
Sure, Matt, happy to do that. That's one of the critical elements. That's actually something that you need to have in place regardless of what else you're doing in cyber. Because again, we're going to try to help companies do a lot of things on protection, detection, all the front end stuff. But an incident response plan is, what do you do if something really bad does happen? And most companies have no idea to be prepared for that. And so an incident response plan is really that outline that you put in place to say, okay, now we have a cyber attack. We have ransomware going on, we're shut down, data troubles going on. The incident response plan is a step-by-step outline of all the things you need to do that are simple as, how do you notify people? What's the next steps? Where are your backups? How do you restore your backups? How do you get back in business again? And really go through all the stages and steps you need to be effective to come back from a cyber attack. So we view you need to do things at the front end, but you can never guarantee someone's not going to be successfully attacked. Let's have this plan in place also, because it's another level of security and comfort to know you've got something like that.
Let's talk about your team. We actually were talking about your team before we went live, and there's going to be a lot of familiar names in there to anybody that's familiar with Michigan state government or cybersecurity. Let's talk about who you have on board with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's a rock star team that I'm glad they gave me the chance to join them. So our COO is Bhushan Kulkarni. Bhushan's a serial entrepreneur. He's been around for decades in the Ann Arbor area. He's created 2 successful software solutions companies. He's actually created more companies. He's got 2 still going, but he's got great management teams running them now, GDI and InfoReady. And so he's got the bug to go do another one. So excited to have him on board. Our Chief Client Success Officer is a friend of yours, David Bean. David, I hired away from one of Bhushan's startups to be CIO at the state of Michigan. And he helped make Michigan the leading state in the nation in cybersecurity in terms of state government. He then went on to Lazy Boy as the CIO. Now he's full-time at the company. And our 4th co-founder is Dave Kelly, another rock star. He's our Chief Technology Officer, and he's basically the guy that was a captain of the Michigan State Police that stood up the Michigan Cyber Command and the intelligence function for the state police. So he's seen stuff that virtually very few people in this country have ever seen in terms of understanding cyber threats.
So you talked about the need for small companies to practice good cyber hygiene, also to create a proactive instead of reactive cybersecurity culture. Talk a little bit, if you would, about what the elements of that culture would be.
Yeah, Matt, that's really important because small and medium-sized organizations don't have sophisticated IT staffs. And so we go through a lot of basics about the human side of cyber, about teaching people how to do passwords the right way, about all the compliance kind of issues, and educating them what needs to be done, because over 80% of cyber breaches are because of human error. They're not just technology issues here. And it really goes from having a passive culture where you sort of say, hey, there's that cyber stuff, I don't need to worry about it, to now proactively having on the list of things you need to think about consciously for all your employees. And it's interesting. I've learned something as I've gone through this process, and I've been talking to a lot of groups, is initially a lot of people say, well, I don't know if my employees are going to want a cyber lesson or they're going to want to learn anything about cyber. And I turn it around for them. I say you should be touting this as a free employee benefit, because everything they're going to learn in the cyber lessons we're giving them are things they should be doing in their personal life. They should be doing all these things at home to better protect themselves at home. So this is something that it doesn't take a lot of time. It takes less than an hour a month for the things we're asking them to do, a half hour a month. But these are critical things that will, one, help the business, but two, help every employee in their personal life.
So things such as?
Strong passwords. What is a strong password? How often should you change it? How do you handle that stuff? If you're going on a public internet, what do you need to know to be safe about setting up a virtual private network that will encrypt the data so you can't get hacked that way? There's a number of these things. Phishing emails. Again, these emails you get that sort of entice you to click on something. If you click on it, you're in trouble. We're going to have a whole process to help employees identify those phishing email and not click on them.
So is this more of your group more of a training kind of, schooling them on what they should and shouldn't do in the cyber world, or do you offer some sort of applications or products or anything along those lines?
Great question, Mike. We're a wraparound service. So we want to be that trusted guides that's with them as their cybersecurity partner. So we're doing a bunch of other things in addition to some of the training things, the phishing things I've talked about. We'll actually be doing vulnerability scans on an ongoing basis where we're actually looking at the outside at the company to say, do we see things open? Do we see problem areas you need to plug? We're actually going to go out and look on the dark web, the scary place where that data ends up, to see if we find there's stuff out there, which means there's something already wrong. And how do we address that? So there's a whole series of things, but the overall thing we're going to give them a cyber health score, sort of like a credit score. It's on a 1,000-point scale for their cyber health that they can track over time. So there's something tangible to let them know they're doing better or how they benchmark versus other people. Most small businesses are probably going to score 200 to 300 when they first go through our health check. Our goal is to get them to 700 to 800. It's interesting. I never thought I'd be so excited to work in a business where one of the main goals is to help people sleep better at night. This is never going to be the primary focus for a business person. They need to run their business, but they're not going to sleep well. I don't know how you can sleep well if you're not doing a number of cyber hygiene things to protect yourself, because you're going to get hacked if you're in that 200 to 300 range, most likely.
Well, is there anything new under the sun in terms of the threats, or is it the same stuff we've been hearing about for years?
No, it's always evolving. That's why we want to be a long-term partner with them, Matt. That's why we actually do a subscription agreement, because these threats are changing. I'll give you one illustration. We just sent out a brief about a new one going on, and that's actually spoofing DocuSign. You've heard of these phishing emails, but the new one is DocuSign. So the bad guys might be looking at real estate closings, for example, to see if you've closed on a house or a new mortgage for a business or some transaction. And if they see that listed in the paper, they may send you a spoofing DocuSign to you saying, hey, you forgot to sign this additional document to wrap up the package. Can you just go through and sign that last thing? You go do that and you're in trouble.
Now, one thing you didn't mention was ransomware, which is a lot of where if you click on something you shouldn't, then you can get hit with ransomware, which encrypts your computer, and then you have to pay some large sum of money to get the bad guys to release it. So obviously that's what you're going to be talking to your clients about as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That goes back to that incident response plan we talked earlier. That's where it's critically important to have that plan in place. And another thing we're going to do is we're going to keep a copy of the plan that's completed on our system. So if you can't get in your system to say, get your plan, we've got a copy of your plan, and we can be there to help guide you through the implementation of that plan.
All right. Well, speaking on behalf of a potential small business owner, what are the rates like for this kind of service?
Yeah, it's a monthly fee, annual subscription, and it's $750 a month. For a business between 0 and 20 active users, between 20 and 100, it's $1,000 a month. For 100 to 250, it's $1,500 a month. If you tried to buy what we're offering a la carte, sort of ad hoc, it would be significantly more, and you wouldn't have this whole wraparound. So we think we're offering a great value compared to what you could get. A cybersecurity person out in the marketplace is a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
And you can't find them.
So it's almost like a fractional, you get a fractional CISO or CIO or whatever here when you sign up for your service. Then would that be one way to describe it?
Yeah, like a virtual CISO to help do this work. But an important thing I would tell you, because there's a lot of good people in the IT world that are often also helping companies, is our only focus is cybersecurity. Because that's one of the things, if you want to do cybersecurity right, you can't be distracted. You can't say, I'm going to go do other IT work for a while. You need to be watching cybersecurity issues all the time. And that's why we tell people it's a subscription, because does anyone believe this stuff's going to get simpler and easier in the future?
No. And the bad guys are really good at what they do. In fact, some of the best people in cyber are the bad guys because they can make so much more money, right?
Yeah, it's scary stuff. And the part of the problem is, and that's why it's affecting small business so much, to attack 1,000 parties isn't any more difficult than to attack 1 or 10 or 20. They just need more addresses to fire this stuff out to. So that's why you're seeing the frequency of these attacks, how they're affecting everyone. There's no place to hide if you're online.
You need to ask the Matt question whenever you're ready there, Matt.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I always ask this question. I started asking it during the recession when jobs were scarce, and I still ask it now. But whenever I talk to someone who's starting a new company, I say, are you looking for employees? And if so, what skill sets?
Yeah, we are. We've actually brought on some great people, but we plan to grow. So we're interested, and people should go to our website to look for that. One of the primary things we're looking for, we call them cyber advocates. These are the primary client interface people. And these are folks that most likely have a certificate in cybersecurity. So you don't need a master's degree, a PhD, even a bachelor's for a lot of the roles we're looking for. We're looking for people with certificates that understand the basics and have great communication skills. Because again, if you think about working with a small business, we want people that can talk in plain language to people. We in the company, I joke, I'm the anti-acronym police. Because if you talk to cyber people, they can put you in a coma or drive you nuts very quickly if you're not part of this world by all the letters they'll list off and all the acronyms they'll use. We don't do that. We want to talk in real terms that are understandable and can, that relate to small business people or small organizations.
All right. Well, we're coming down to the end. So this is where we ask whoever we're interviewing to provide information on how folks can learn more about their company. So how do they reach out to SensCy?
Go to our website, I'd recommend www.SensCy, SensCy.com. So SensCy.com. And I encourage you to follow us, sign up for our newsletter. We actually do briefings and alerts. So if you're not quite ready to sign up, you'll see the kind of activities we're doing to help support people and let them know the scary stuff's going to keep coming. And I really encourage people to jump on board with us or somebody like us. There really aren't people like us, I don't believe, but you need to be more proactive about your cyber health than most people are today.